Hey guys, welcome back to Steel City Sports. So this is my review for Game 2 of the NBA Finals. And I just want to say right off the bat, this is probably the worst finals that I've watched in the fact that it doesn't even seem close. Like, this game was a lot more competitive for the Dallas Mavericks, but I can't remember a finals I've watched where I just felt like the other team didn't stand a chance. And we're going to talk about all the reasons why that is. I mean, even last year, an 8-seeded Heat team got 2 games off the Nuggets. Like, they had more fight than this Mavericks team. And the Mavericks were definitely better in this game than Game 1. But going forward, this could definitely be a sweep. I mean, you just look at the performances tonight. The fact that Jason Tatum can have such a god-awful shooting performance and their team is still able to win kind of convincingly, it just shows you what I'm talking about here when I say it doesn't even really seem close. Like, Jason Tatum, you just look at his box score, it looks impressive. Like, if you didn't watch this game and you just look at Jason Tatum's stat line of 18 points, 9 rebounds, and 12 assists, you're like, oh, he was one off a triple-double, pretty good game. But when you look at the efficiency, that tells you how bad Tatum was in this game. He was 6 of 22 from the field, and he shot 1 of 7 from 3. Jason Tatum was flat out terrible in this game. I don't care what the stat line says. In terms of his shooting performance, his scoring ability, he was completely off in this game. And like I said, it just shows you how good the Celtics are for their best player to have that bad of a shooting performance, yet they're still able to win the game. So the Celtics obviously won this by 7. We'll take a quick look at some of the other stat lines. I did want to point out, obviously, Luka continues to have a great finals. And I even heard some people online saying, as of right now, Luka's the finals MVP. Like, even if the Mavericks got swept, people are saying that because, the Celtics are really winning due to their team ability. It's not like one guy for the Celtics is really stepping up and dominating. The Celtics are winning this through their team play. Through, Game 1, you had Porzingis step up really big in the first half of that game. Jaylen Brown was pretty good in that game. This game was obviously the Drew Holiday game with Jaylen Brown. I guess Jaylen Brown would kind of be the favorite for Finals MVP right now, just for the simple fact of he hasn't had like a god-awful game. He's a star. I don't think they're going to give a Finals MVP to Drew Holiday. I mean, maybe if he continues to do what he did in Game 2, but just based off of how they like to give out the award, they typically like the stars to win Finals MVP. And Jaylen Brown right now, he's definitely been better than Jason Tatum through the first 2 games, and he's had averaging basically like 21 points per game, and you could argue has been like their most effective, their most reliable scorer through the first 2 games. So I guess Jaylen Brown kind of by default would be your Finals MVP if the Celtics obviously continue this. But if you're just talking about who the best player in this series is, it's not even close. Luka Doncic has been incredible in his Finals debut. This game he had 32 points, 11 rebounds, and 11 assists, so he did get a triple-double. He shot 12 of 21 from the field. His shooting efficiency definitely cooled off in the second half of this game. We're going to talk about it more in detail. But the first half of this game, there was a point where he was like 8 of 10 from the field. Like, he had a really hot shooting stretch in the first half of this game. Like I said, definitely kind of cooled off in the second half. But the biggest story for me of the NBA Finals thus far is Kyrie Irving has been a total no-show in this series. I mean, in this game, 16 points, 2 rebounds, 6 assists, but his efficiency god-awful, 7 of 18 from the field and 0 of 3 from behind the arc. And I put his 2 games together just to show you what he's been averaging in the finals thus far through 2 games. 14 points per game on 35% efficiency from the field, and he's 0 of 8 from 3. He hasn't hit a 3-pointer in the finals yet. So that is the number one reason why the Mavericks have lost both these games is Kyrie Irving has not shown up for either of these games in Boston. And I know he said the crowd didn't affect him. He can say that all he wants, but for me, he just seems off. He's not playing well whatsoever right now. We'll see if things change when they get to Dallas, whenever he's not booed every time he touches the ball. Like, he can say that all he wants. It doesn't affect him, but just looking at his play, it kind of looks like right now that Boston crowd is getting to Kyrie Irving because he's been terrible in the finals thus far. It's just unacceptable for your number 2 option to be averaging 14 points on god-awful efficiency. I mean, it's just not sustainable. And maybe that is a silver lining for the Dallas Mavericks is, hey, look, we were kind of close in this one. I don't think Kyrie can get much worse than this. So if you get actual quality performances from Kyrie Irving, then maybe you actually will win some games. So, that could be a silver lining for the Mavericks is I don't think Kyrie can get much worse than how he's playing right now. And if you get an actual good Kyrie Irving game, like from a couple years ago, Kyrie Irving was known as a great player in the finals when he was with Cleveland. He had multiple 30-point games. I think he's had 6 career 30-point games in the NBA Finals. So if he just shows up, he just actually starts doing Kyrie things, then that could be a big silver lining for the Dallas Mavericks, But obviously for this game alone, the MVP of Game 2 is Drew Holiday, 100%. 26 points, 11 rebounds, 3 assists. His efficiency was incredible. 11 of 14 from the field and 2 of 4 from 3. And, of course, the defensive impact. Him and Derek White suffocating perimeter defense, which we're going to talk about in more detail here. But Drew Holiday was sensational for the Celtics today. He was definitely the best player on the Celtics in Game 2. So let's take a look at my notes here. We'll go through the first quarter. The Mavericks did start off strong, and they definitely looked like a different team in this one than they did in Game 1. They started off up 13-6. Their defense looked more consistent, and the big thing for me was they were actually rebounding the ball. That was one thing that led to them basically being punched in the face by Boston in Game 1 is their rebounding was god-awful. Well, it wasn't the case in Game 2. They actually were rebounding the ball a lot better. So they get off to that 13-6 run, and this is where I think the momentum shifted instantly, was this call from Jason Kidd, his challenge. There was a foul where PJ Washington went up to block Derek White, and from the one angle, it actually was kind of convincing that, hey, this might get overturned. Then they show the other angle from the backside, and it was a clear, blatant foul. He just smacked him on the hand, couldn't be clearer. And it was just a god-awful call. And I felt like after that happened, all the momentum went to the Celtics. Porzingis then really showed his two-way ability. Again, I have to keep highlighting Kristaps because, he might not have the most crazy box scores, but just for the eye test in the game, he's such an incredible player. His fit for the Celtics is great. I mean, just seeing these effortless shots he gets over people. I mean, he's 7'2". I mean, he's unguardable. And then obviously the defensive impact he brings, particularly as a rim protector. He's just the perfect fit for this Celtics team. He's not asked to be the guy to carry them, but he has so much high-end talent that he can really thrive in the role that he's carved out there in Boston. So I always want to show some love for Porzingis. Here's another thing that I think led to the Mavs' downfall in Game 2 is they were just flat out terrible at the free throw line. I believe they missed 8 or 9 free throws in this game, and they lost by 7. So you do the math. They hit their free throws a little better. This is a different game. But particularly in the first quarter, Luka and Daniel Gafford both had trips to the free throw line where they missed both their free throws, and they were overall 4 of 9 in the first quarter at the free throw line. So, you don't have to make 100% of your shots, but that's just a terrible way to start off from the line. And then it felt like the Mavericks were stuck at 13 points for 5 minutes. I was sitting there and I'm like, they still have 13 points. They went on a big scoring drought in the middle way of the first quarter. Kyrie was actually not bad in the first quarter though. That I was kind of excited to come on here and say, oh, looks like Kyrie actually had a good game. But this was the only good quarter he had because the rest of the game he was pretty terrible. He had 8 points on 4 of 5 from the field. So he got off to a really good start in the first quarter of this game and just disappeared. Just didn't show up for the rest of the game. And I also wanted to make note of this. The Celtics perimeter defense was suffocating. That's something you can tell if you watch this game. Even if you're a non-basketball fan just watching this game, you can tell just from the eye test that Celtics perimeter defense is special. I mean, it is suffocating with Derek White and Drew Holiday forcing all these crazy, wicked passes, the turnovers, the contested shots. They are, I think, in an argument for the best defensive backcourt we've ever seen. Obviously, if they win the title, that's going to help their argument. And I already heard them on the broadcast talking about that. Is this the best defensive backcourt we've ever seen in the history of basketball? Time will tell, but I think if they get this ring, that'll definitely, make it a really good argument. So now we can move into the second quarter of this game. It was still back and forth. The Celtics didn't really pull away here, at least to start off the second quarter. Luka was having a great game. He was incredible in the first half of this game. Like I said, he cooled off a little in the second half, but in the second quarter, he had a phenomenal shooting performance. Like I said, at this point, he was 8 of 10. And then you compare that to Tatum. Tatum was 1 of 7 at this point in the game from the field. Tatum was kind of invisible. And then we get to this point where it was like Mike Breen called it helter-skelter basketball because Joe Mazzola had to call a timeout because it was insane. I mean, it was like a little stretch of the second quarter, I want to say like 2 or 3 minutes, where they were just like, both teams it seemed like they didn't know what the hell they were doing. Like, terrible passes, they were just running around. There was very little, like, order to it. It was just chaos. And I thought that was a really good call from Mike Breen, calling that helter-skelter basketball, because there was that stretch of the second quarter was like, what the hell are we doing? Like, everyone's just running around, throwing the ball out of bounds, stepping out of bounds. It was kind of chaotic. But then we go into the second half into the third quarter. I didn't write it down, but I'm pretty sure the Celtics had a 3-point lead going into half. So we come back for the third quarter. Luka's great game continued. He did cool off a little, but overall Luka had a really, really good game. A 30-point triple-double. But the third quarter was really where the Celtics pulled away with this one and didn't really look back. They went on a 10-0 run in the third quarter, and that felt like it was kind of it. And then I wrote right here, Kyrie sucks. He was, again, I already said this. I don't want to sound like a broken record, but he was fucking terrible in this game. Did not show up whatsoever. He was getting wide open layups that he was missing, and just awful from 3-point range, 0 of 3. He just really couldn't do anything productive on the court, especially in the second half of this game. He was just bad. And then you contrast that with Drew Holiday, who was sensational in this game. And the Celtics really pulled away in the third quarter. And, I know it did get a little competitive in the fourth quarter. The Mavericks definitely did fight back. There was a point, I think they were only down about like 5 or 6 points. But they were able to close it out. Jaylen Brown in particular and Drew Holiday. And that was game 2. Definitely a more competitive game than game 1. But after that, the momentum shifted to Boston after that failed challenge. I feel like the Celtics really had all the momentum in this game. They didn't let go of it. Kyrie being a no-show, the Celtics just having the depth and their guys being able to step up this series. Just as of right now, I mean, we've seen 2-0 leads be blown in the NBA Finals. I'm not saying it's over. It happened in 2021 with the Suns. They went up 2-0 on the Bucks, and then they lost the rest of the games. They lost that Finals. So it's not over, but it just feels so overwhelmingly brutal for the Mavericks because, like we said, to have their best player shoot 6 of 22 from the field and still be able to win the game, that's just like a backbreaker right there. So you guys let me know what you thought of this game, and definitely let me know who you think, as of right now, would be your pick for the NBA Finals MVP. If you made it this far, appreciate you watching. Please like and subscribe.